All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to deconstruct a genuinely mind-bending metaphysical concept known as the Nexus framework. And look, I want to be clear right up front. This isn't just some slight theoretical tweak to how we view the world. We're talking about a framework that fundamentally redefines reality, the absolute mechanics of change, and the passage of time itself. We are about to dig into some incredibly deep structural geometry that applies to literally everything, from cryptographic hashes to the biology of a living cell, right up to human consciousness.
So, let's jump right into a massive paradigm shift. What if time doesn't actually flow? I mean, what if the universe is essentially just a fully saturated, totally static array of information, and our entire experience of reality is just a read head moving across that array at a specific rate? To even begin to unpack this provocative idea, we have to look at what the concept of change actually requires at a fundamental geometric level.
Which brings us to Act 1, the 3D geometry of change. We normally just think of change as things moving around in space over time, right? But the source material reveals it's far more rigorous than that.
It shows us that change requires three specific perpendicular dimensions engaging all at once. This framework elegantly breaks change down into the X, Y, and Z axes. Think of it kind of like playing a movie. X is the recursive consumption, the sequence. It's the when. It drives the process forward, so we don't just sit in total stasis. Then you have Y, which is the binary constraint or carrier pull. It acts like the projector frame, keeping the picture stable by enforcing a strict one-to-one conservation, pulling things back to baseline so the system doesn't just run away into infinity. And finally, Z is the node address. It's the specific pixel on the screen, the where. It gives us exact specificity, completely preventing absolute chaos.
Now, here's where it gets really fascinating. What happens if you pull a piece out of this puzzle? Reality instantly breaks down into what are called degeneracy cases. If you only have Y, you have pure conservation but absolutely no sequence or address. It's a frozen crystal at absolute zero. Say you have X and Y but no Z. Well, you get a sequence, and energy is conserved, but there are no specific coordinates. It just becomes this homogeneous flow with zero structure. And what if you have X and Z, but you lose that Y constraint? You get a sequence and an address without any conservation at all. The result? Explosive dissolution. Things try to form and immediately disperse, basically heat death without the heat.
So, to have a stable, observable universe, or a functioning computer program, or for sure even a single conscious thought, all three of these axes must engage perfectly and simultaneously. Time flows on X, energy and identity are conserved on Y, and events occur at specific geometric coordinates on Z. When all three fire together, the framework calls this a complete fold. Let's move to Act 2, the breaking point. Because physical and computational systems have absolute hard limits. This machinery of change, it isn't infinitely flexible. So we have to ask the obvious question: what happens when this precise 3D fold is pushed beyond its limits? Imagine pushing that machinery beyond its inherent capacity to cleanly process the sequence.
This brings us to a massively important metric called frame bandwidth, or BOF. Think of this as a universal coherence fence, the ultimate speed limit of reality. It strictly dictates the maximum rate at which reality can cleanly update without scrambling its own information. Stay within this bandwidth, and you get smooth, stable existence. Cross it, well, things break.
Depending on how hard you push the system relative to that bandwidth, you trigger one of three inevitable physical states. These are known as the three fates. If the rate is less than the bandwidth, the system experiences continue, just your normal, stable existence. But if the rate exceeds the bandwidth, it will either explode if the system is accelerating, or implode if the system is decelerating. Let's visualize those catastrophic failures. Exploding is runaway dispersion. The frame rate is just too high, labels fly apart way faster than they can map to each other, and all coherence is lost. A perfect physical analog is centrifugal force, tearing a spinning tire to shreds, or a star going nova. Imploding, conversely, is a sudden, violent inward fold. The addresses literally collide into each other, distinction is destroyed, and the shape collapses. It's exactly like the catastrophic implosion of the OceanGate submarine, or a dying star's core collapsing into a black hole.
All right, Act 3, the cosmic safety net. This brings up a crucial point. When things try to go too fast and hit these structural limits, why doesn't the entire universe just shatter completely?
The answer is a mechanism called the perpendicular governor. See that formula? Notice the squared symbol at the end? That represents a mathematical law demonstrating that as a system's speed approaches its limit, an orthogonal or perpendicular stopping force grows quadratically.
It is literally a built-in cosmic safety net. Think of a wobbly axle on a speeding car. Running out of control is the exact thing that releases the geometric force that violently corrects it. You can't speed up without proportionally arming the very mechanism that will stop you. The systems that survive in our universe aren't surviving by some grand design, they're just the ones that stayed within their bandwidth. Everything else triggered its own correction and simply ceased to exist.
Which leads us to Act 4, the ultimate reveal. Let's see how all of this builds a completely new understanding of what time and consciousness actually are.
The framework introduces a concept called self-referential Z. Now remember, Z is the node address, the where. Well, if a system, say your own brain, uses its current state to decide where to look next on the static array, it creates a self-referential feedback loop. The current state changes the read head, which then selects a new state, which again changes the read head, over and over.
Because of this loop, a system reading its own state can never actually arrive at a fixed point without ceasing to be self-referential. Actually, scratch that. It's not that it can't arrive, it's that this perpetual non-arrival is its defining feature. It is the absolute structural signature of having a trajectory rather than just a fixed destination. The system is always in transit, always processing, never finished.
Therefore, the passage of time is simply the sequence of this read head navigating the static array. Time isn't a flowing river, it's just a sequence of selections. And causality? It isn't about the past somehow creating the future, it's just the read head selecting the very next coordinate on an already existing, fully saturated grid.
I want to leave you with this final, genuinely profound realization to ponder. Under the Nexus framework, you aren't moving through time. Your very consciousness is the continuous, unfinished process of reality reading itself. Time is precisely what this non-convergence looks like from the inside. So, if the universe is just a static array, what exactly are you choosing to read next?